ministry and accountability. For you, the type of people in your circle, like I said, for those who know Jason, like he's on the circuit, God's been using him and blessing other people. But I believe we both understand and know that we need an accountability group, spiritual fathers, other ministry partners, co-laborers, to make sure that we don't get too high and puffed up. We're going to talk about pride and humility in a second. But when it comes to accountability, when it comes to accountability, tell me as far as your personal accountability, and how would you tell other young ministers that the need for accountability?
I honestly, I think it's very much needed. I will openly and honestly admit that I could use some more accountability in my life. Not to say that I'm living shamelessly, because I really think that while I'm not perfect, I really try hard to uphold my integrity. But I think one of my biggest accountability or people that I go to that I'm accountable to is my pastor, man. Pastor Monroe, and I call him Dad affectionately. He is like my father, spiritual father. I talk to him about everything, and he has no problem putting me in check. He'd be, all right, Jason, you need to do this, or you need to do that, or, I remember when I first started preaching. Man, when I first started preaching, man, I thought I was God's gift to humanity. I just knew that when Jason Lewis came on the scene and started preaching, that all of the world was gonna get saved, right? and man, when he humbled me so fast, God humbled me, and he used the hand of my pastor now to do it. My pastor, man, he put me in check. He was like, Jason, I need you to stop running with certain groups of preachers and stop going behind them and doing this and that. I need you to stay here, and he'll do it now. There's a lot of demand on me to preach and stuff, but he's like, Jason, I need you to be visible at home. People need to see you. He's never told me to turn down an engagement. But, I'll be like, oh, Dad, can I go preach? He says, yeah, you can, but people do need to see you, but it's up to you if you want to go. And then even outside of that, just with my personal living, I have a relationship with him where I can just be very open and very candid. Hey, Dad, I'm struggling with such and such. And he'll be, well, Jay, you know what the Bible says about such and such. And I remember, I went through such and such, and here's how I handle it, and I think it'll help you if you handle it this way. And you need somebody to talk to, because particularly being young and very ambitious, sometimes it's hard for us to discern which direction to go, and we need somebody to kind of steer us in the right direction. We need somebody to guide us. And then just in other areas, man, we need accountability. Somebody we can call up, hey bro, I'm struggling with such and such, man, I need you to pray right now. Stop whatever you're doing. I need some prayer. And I will say that I kind of slack in that area because my circle of friends is very small.
And all of you probably can attest, in ministry, you guys have small circle friends, intimate groups. Spiritual fathers. I believe there's some pastor or somebody on here who they need to know what it means to be an effective spiritual father. Jason Lewis, like I said, he's got a close relationship with his pastor to the point where he calls him Dad, and he trusts him with not just ministry conversation, but life conversation. So how would you explain to other pastors who've got young ministers and they want to be that spiritual father role? What is the makeup of an effective spiritual father as a son?
From the perspective of a son, I think that if you're a spiritual father, then the person who's sitting under you needs to feel comfortable with you. They need to choose you more so than you choosing them.
Say that.
While you may have an eye out on them, my dad, he's always been there, but I always esteemed him so much. Oh, that's Pastor Monroe and all of this. But he was all, Jason, if you ever need anything, just come talk to me. And it wasn't until I got older and I got comfortable, and over the years of me sitting under him, that and him just kind of showing me just glimpses of his not you know, we make fun.
Yeah.
He's Pastor Curtis Monroe, but he's also CJ. You know,
gotcha.
you know, nobody knows CJ. You know,
yeah.
but every now and then CJ will pop out on it. You know, and I'll be like, man, this dude is so real. You know, he struggles too. You know, he understands what I'm going through. And so I was like, you know what? I can confide in this man.
But he didn't bulldog himself.
No, not at all.
I mean, how many pastors do you know who say, you know, well, since you sit in my church, you know, you're my spiritual son? Like, it's like they're adopted.
Man, listen, man, let me tell you this. You don't know how many pastors have come up to me and say, oh man, I see something in you, or I see myself in you, and I want to mentor you, or I want to be a spiritual father, or I want to be your big brother, or I want to be your uncle, or I want to be this and that, I want to be your friend. You know, I think that, you know, that our destiny, man, that is scary. It is scary. But because I'm so sure in my relationship with my pastor that if you fail to appropriate my pastor in our relationship as mentor or whatever, then that's a no on you, because I know with certainty that God has made this man my spiritual father. And so if you try to go around that in any way, then I'm kind of cool on you. But I said that to say that you cannot just bulldoze your way into somebody's life. You can't do it. You can't do it. And so you have to feel comfortable. One, you have to be open and honest. The mentee has to feel as though they can trust you, you know, and that deals with your integrity. You have, as a spiritual father, you have to have integrity, because if you don't, then I'll never open up. You know, if I hear bad things about you, then I just don't trust you. I don't, you know, like currently right now, if I wasn't sitting at Redeemer, I can really only think of maybe one other church, one other pastor, maybe two, in Los Angeles as a whole that I consider. You know, not necessarily because of their ministry, but because of their integrity.
It's so sad that pastors they don't put too much focus on integrity enough.
Yeah.
Which should be the foundation of being a minister itself. Aside from the gift and talent, and I think we can segue to that. Many of the pastors, leaders, they're gifted, they're talented, they've got great abilities, but that's not going to keep you. And on top of that, especially when you got spiritual sons, you know, we know what you can do on the forefront. Anybody can act if you learn how to act. Anybody can sing if you learn to sing, preach, and whatnot, hoop, holler. But at the end of the day, we care about how you live it. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a sad case. I think it's bad that I think the reason why our generation is so twisted and confused today when it comes to ministry and preaching and you know, going forth in ministry is because they followed somebody who was great on the forefront and preaching, teaching, and gifted, but their integrity was shot. Disgusting. Yeah. And so I think, I mean, even for a spiritual father, I mean, Jason, I think if his pastor had retired now, he would probably still sit under Curtis Monroe.
Like that.
Right?
You know, if Dad was ever to retire, well, if he was to retire, I kind of would have to kind of find like a spiritual.
Oh, obviously. Well,
but I would still sit under him as a mentor.
There you go.
I mean, he could mentor me for the rest of his life as far as I'm concerned.
Gotcha. Okay. So mentorship is essential.
Yeah, essential.